Over 5.6 million metric tons of butter are consumed every year around the world. From local farm brands to household names like Lurpak butter, which has become a global favorite for its smooth texture and rich flavor. But how does this simple block of dairy become one of the most in-demand kitchen essentials on the planet? Let's follow the journey here at the Process World, from cow to creamy spread. And by the end, you might never look at butter the same way again.
I can't believe it's made with real simple ingredients.
I can't believe.
Right, well.
I can't believe they talked me into this.
I can't believe my roll isn't bigger.
Real simple ingredients, unbelievable taste. Oh, it's real. Enjoy I Can't Believe It's Not Butter.
Let's kick things off at the very start. The cow. Not just any cow, but ones raised in calm, clean, and highly monitored environments. These aren't dusty barnyard scenes. We're talking about automated dairy farms where cows walk into high-tech stalls, and everything from feeding to milking is done with machines that keep things smooth and hygienic. Each stall has a milking unit that gently uses vacuum suction to draw out the milk. No rough handling, no human contact, just a clean system that works on routine. As soon as the milk is collected, it flows directly into a closed stainless steel tank where it's kept cool and fresh. But before it even leaves the farm, it's tested. Lab technicians check for everything, from bacteria contamination to fat content to overall purity. If the milk doesn't pass the test, it doesn't go anywhere. Once cleared, the milk is sent to the butter-making facility in insulated tankers designed to hold the right temperature during transport. This ensures that the milk stays safe and stable. And just like that, we've got high-quality raw material ready to begin its transformation into butter. But what happens when that milk reaches the factory floor? It's all about testing, heating, and separating the real star, the cream. Well, before we get into that, please leave a like and subscribe for more amazing videos like this one. Now, moving on. Once the milk arrives at the factory, it's not rushed into production. It's held up for another round of tests, just to be sure that nothing slipped through at the farm. Trained technicians run checks for bacteria, temperature controls, and even how much fat is in the milk. This step is non-negotiable. If anything's off, the entire batch gets flagged. Now, here's where the real transformation begins. The milk is gently heated through a process called pasteurization. It's brought up to around 72 degrees Celsius for about 15 to 20 seconds, just long enough to kill any harmful bacteria without ruining the quality. Right after that, the milk is cooled back down quickly to lock in freshness. This step also helps extend shelf life and make the product safe for large-scale handling. Next comes centrifugation, a mechanical spinning process that separates the milk into two parts, skimmed milk and cream. This is done using large separators that spin thousands of times per minute. The lighter skimmed milk is pulled outward, while the heavier fat-rich cream is collected closer to the center. That part is what we need for butter, and the rest is stored for other uses like skimmed milk or yogurt. By the end of this stage, we've got clean, pasteurized, high-fat cream. Smooth, stable, and ready for the next big step. This step is all about getting the texture, flavor, and consistency just right. Factories don't rush into churning. The cream is first sent into large storage tanks where it's held at very specific temperatures, usually around 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, to keep it stable and fresh while it matures. For certain types of butter, especially cultured ones, there's an extra step. Lactic acid bacteria are added to the cream. This kicks off a fermentation process that gives the butter a richer, tangier flavor. That fermentation can last anywhere from several hours to over a day, depending on what kind of butter they're aiming to make. It's a careful balancing act. If the temperature or time is off, the flavor or structure won't come out right. Even when cultures aren't added, the cream is still aged and rested in a controlled environment to let the fat molecules settle and stabilize. This makes the churning process smoother and the final butter more consistent in both taste and texture. Once the cream hits the right point, matured, chilled, and ready, it's pumped out into tanks and lined up for the next major phase. And that's where the real magic starts, the churning. This is where that smooth liquid starts turning into actual butter. The machine starts spinning or rocking the cream with just the right amount of force, usually for about 15 to 20 minutes. Inside, the fat molecules begin to collide and stick together, slowly forming tiny butter grains. As this happens, a thin liquid starts separating out. That's buttermilk. It's drained off and collected because it's still useful for baking, cooking, or sold on its own. What's left behind is a mix of soft butter grains and a bit of liquid fat. The factory closely monitors the temperature and pH levels during this stage. If anything goes off balance, it can mess up the texture or the shelf life. The goal here is to get consistent creamy butter that holds together and tastes right every time. Once the churning is done, the butter isn't packed up just yet. It still needs to be cleaned up and worked into its final form. That's where washing and kneading come in. And that's up next. The butter grains are thoroughly washed using cold, clean water. This rinse helps remove as much of the remaining buttermilk as possible. Some factories repeat the washing a few times to make sure that it's done right. It might sound simple, but this step is one of the most important ones for long-term freshness and flavor. Once the grains are clean, they're ready to be shaped into a smooth, uniform mass. That's done by kneading, either by hand in small-scale setups or more often by machines in large butter plants. Kneading helps push out any extra moisture and gives the butter a consistent texture. This is also when it becomes soft and spreadable instead of grainy or clumpy. At this point, the butter is clean, smooth, and stable, which means it's finally ready for some flavor. And that's when the salt and other tasty ingredients come in. Now, the amount of salt used usually ranges from 0.1% to 0.7%, depending on where it's being made and what kind of butter is being produced. In many factories, salt is mixed in using large kneading machines that evenly spread it out throughout the butter. This way, every spoonful or slice has the same consistent flavor. Salted butter tends to last longer than unsalted versions, which is why it's often the go-to choice for cooking and table use. Besides salt, factories sometimes create flavored varieties too. You'll find mixes that include garlic, herbs, honey, and even spices. Some regions add food-grade coloring, especially in places like the US, where a yellow tint is sometimes added to an unsalted butter to make it look more appealing. This stage is all about getting the flavor and appearance just right. Once that's done, the butter is ready to take shape, literally. This step smooths out any remaining texture issues and makes sure that the salt or added ingredients are fully mixed in. The machines here work almost like giant mixers, folding the butter over and over until it's soft, uniform, and ready to hold its shape. Now comes the shaping, and factories take this part seriously. They use machines called extruders that push the butter through specific molds to form clean, uniform shapes. Whether it's sticks, blocks, or tubs, the butter needs to be shaped to fit the packaging it's headed for. There are also slicing machines that handle larger chunks of butter, cutting them down into retail-sized portions. And in some factories, there are even hand-molding sections for premium artisanal batches, where each piece is formed with more attention to detail. All this shaping is done while keeping the butter cool so it holds its structure and stays fresh for the next step. And once those blocks or sticks are ready, it's time to move them to packaging. And that's where automation really kicks into gear. Now that the butter is perfectly shaped, it moves straight into the packaging line. This part of the process is fast, clean, and fully automated. Machines line up the butter blocks or tubs, and each one is filled, sealed, and labeled in just seconds. For stick butter, wrapping machines use foil, wax paper, or a combination of both to keep out air and light. Two things that can spoil flavor over time. Premium brands like Lurpak wrap their butter in high-grade foil, not just for looks, but to protect it from light and oxygen, keeping the flavor fresher for longer. When it comes to tubs, they're filled through small nozzles that control portion size exactly, and then sealed with airtight lids or golden foil tops to keep things fresh. Every tub or block gets a printed label with product details, expiration date, and batch information. From there, the butter heads to refrigeration units within the factory, where it stays chilled before being boxed up for shipment. This careful storage helps maintain that creamy texture and clean flavor all the way through to the store shelf. So now that you've seen how milk turns into butter, gets flavored and shaped, here's the real question. If machines can mold butter with such precision, do you think we're getting close to a world where every food is made entirely by robots? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.